Here we go. It is the MGM Resorts NBA Summer League, Day 3, and this is Game 1 of 10. 5 straight on NBA TV, 5 consecutive games on ESPN2 as well. And we tip it off with the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Toronto Raptors, live from Cox Pavilion on the campus of UNLV. Hello again, basketball fans. Rick Kamla, 5-time NBA champion Derek Fisher. We have Ro Parrish with us as well. And Fish, the Toronto Raptors are in a rare scenario. Number 1 seed, franchise record 59 wins. Coach of the year in Dwayne Casey. He's now with Detroit. And Nick Nurse moves over those critical 18 inches. He's now the head coach of the Raptors, and he'll be coaching here today as well.
Doesn't sound like your typical new coach situation, but it is. Nick Nurse is now the head coach in Toronto. Everybody get used to it. And here in the Summer League, he'll get a chance to start seeing his guys live out the vision that he sees for his team. 2-time
G League champion, 9-time champion overseas before coming here to the United States. Nick Nurse can really coach, and OG Anunoby can really play. And he was tasked with defending LeBron James in that playoff series a year ago.
And he accepted the challenge, which is what I like. It's impossible to really guard LeBron James theoretically, but he didn't run from the challenge. He tried his best to make it difficult for the best player in the game, and it'll be good for him in this Summer League to get out there and show the confidence and the growth from last year.
Now for the Minnesota Timberwolves, you've got 3 big-time players: Karl Anthony Towns, Andrew Wiggins, and of course Jimmy Butler, who enters year 2 in Minnesota. How does Tom Thibodeau balance out egos, shots, and the whole thing?
Well, I think, Tibbs is a winner, and he's a pure basketball guy. Reminding his guys, I think he'll continue to remind them that it's about winning. And so it doesn't matter who gets the shots, the minutes, the roles. Let's figure out how to build together and win together. That's the ultimate goal.
So the Minnesota Timberwolves made the playoffs last year for the first time since Kevin Garnett won MVP back in 03-04. So that's where they are. And we, on Friday night, watched Josh Okogie, first-round pick, and Keita Bates-Diop, second-round pick, and we liked what we saw.
We did from both guys. Okogie, not afraid of the physical contact that comes with playing the pro game, really gets after it on every possession. And Bates-Diop, a big that can stretch the floor, but also willing to put the basketball down and try to get to the rim at times as well. So it'll be good to see these guys a second time.
The Timberwolves were down by 21 to the Nuggets on Friday and lost because Keita Bates-Diop missed a last-second shot. The Wolves are rocking with Terrell, Okogie, Cook in the starting lineup for Andrew White, Bates-Diop, and Emile Jefferson. Teague, Miller, Anunoby, McKinney, and Lima comprise the starting lineup for the Raptors, and that is the same starting lineup that they went with on Friday when they lost to the Pelicans 90-77. The Timberwolves 70-69 setback to the Nuggets on Friday night. And here we go from Cox Pavilion. So much hoops today. Just settle in all over the world and watch it on both of these networks. Here's Bates-Diop. We'll hand off to Okogie. And it's off the front of the rim. Now, Okogie did not shoot well, 2 of 10 on Friday, but had 10.7 boards, 4 assists, 3 blocks, and 2 steals.
And there, I like that by John Lucas III coming out. Like you mentioned, Okogie didn't shoot well the other night, but right out of the gate, a nice action to get Okogie a shot early, see if he can get that confidence going from outside.
Malcolm Miller misses for Toronto and a kick ball. John Lucas III. I should preface that with well-traveled. John Lucas III. He's player development coach for the Timberwolves, their summer league coach. Played in Houston, Chicago, Toronto, Utah, Detroit, and finished his career with Minnesota.
And that just speaks to a love of the game that his father has taught him, the OG John Lucas, and John Lucas III carries that into now what looks like will be a coaching career for him, continuing to give back to the game, impart wisdom, and try and help guys be the best versions of themselves.
And you know Tom Thibodeau is a big fan of that guy.
He has to be. Anybody that loves the game the way John does and just gives themselves all to the game, those are the guys we all love.
And we have a backcourt violation on Marquise Teague. He's like, what? There is Tom Thibodeau, the shot caller and head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves. There's some confusion here to start. All right, it's Minnesota ball. Cook to inbound right in front of us. Emil Jefferson, who just had the rock, had 12 points and 14 rebounds. He's number 10 in blue. You really liked what you saw from Jefferson on Friday night, didn't you?
I really do. Going after the basketball every opportunity he gets. Extra possession for his team in terms of offensive rebounding, and then getting after it on the defensive rebounds, getting that offensive possession started for his team.
Augusto Lima with that block for Toronto. Some interior defense for the Wolves, and out they come. Here's Cook. Bounds into a Raptors player, and that is a blocking call that goes against Alfonso McKinney.
Not a lot of charges taken, in the league anymore like there used to be. I used to try and take a lot of them myself, but the way the game is called and played now, most of the time it's a blocking foul. It's hard to get in front of these guys with the speed and the power that they play the game with at this point.
And you weren't even a Dookie.
No, I was not. I was nowhere near good enough to play at Duke coming out of high school.
Charles Cook with a couple of free throws, and the scoreboard operator has had to do something here early on in Vegas. Cook really sparked the team off the bench. He had 7 points and 4 boards in 15 minutes on Friday against Denver. Teague to Lima. Left-handed hook shot is short. And a putback is good right there by Malcolm Miller. Malcolm Miller, a restricted free agent. He's playing for a new contract here. Trying to get inked up. Fred VanVleet just walking by us. And Toronto, according to reports, not letting him go anywhere. And a jam here early on. That is Alfonso McKinney. And Fred VanVleet was a huge fourth quarter player for Toronto a year ago.
Yes, he was. Made big shots late in games for the Raptors to keep momentum going, to get leads, to get him back closer in the game, and played with a lot of confidence for a young player as we look at the Raptors getting out in transition here. Anunoby with the kick up and the transition finished by McKinney.
Keita Bates-Diop at the line. Big Ten Player of the Year a year ago. And shocking how he plummeted in the draft, falling all the way to 48th overall after 3 seasons at OSU.
Surprising. A lot of good players in the Big Ten, so for him to be the Big Ten Player of the Year, I think it says a lot about his potential and his ability to play the game. But there was something that, scouts, personnel, front offices maybe saw that allowed them to feel he dropped as low as he did. But, we talked yesterday about the number really being irrelevant to you going out here as a player and showing that at whatever pick you were drafted, you belong at this level. Let those things take care of themselves by playing the game at a high level.
A lot of guys slid to the second round. You think of, good block right there by Bates-Diop. You think of Kyrie Thomas out of Creighton. Several other players, fell out of that first round. Hamidou Diallo, who we saw yesterday, and some early stuffage there for the Timberwolves, and a terrific defensive play by Emil Jefferson. He leads the break. Lefty shot won't go, and the rebound to Lima.
We talked a couple nights ago about the T-Wolves and Bates-Diop and Okogie in terms of their wingspan. And on that last replay, running it back, seeing Bates-Diop with the block at the rim, even though he's not a powerfully built guy, the wingspan allowing him to contest and block shots at the point of the shot. That's something that Tibbs loves as a coach that is inspired by defensive effort at all times.
Jared Terrell missed that long left wing 3. Speaking of, did you see Trae Young launching from distance yesterday?
I didn't. I heard about it.
He was pulling those Steph Curry threes.
Yeah, that's good for him.
From 28, 29, 30. Didn't have a great shooting line, but ended up with, I think, 21 points and 11 assists. But he was making those deep threes that are his trademark as Bates-Diop misses. Teague gets below the foul line, short with the shot. Well defended there by Terrell.
Yeah, and a lot of people that judge our young players so early, in the league now based on where they were drafted or the hype that surrounds them as players coming out of college. It's just too quick, to judge and to crown. And so for guys like Trae Young, I like to use analogies, and a rookie quarterback in football just does not have the feel yet for reading defenses, coverages, mixing things up, looking off defenders, and those are all things that all young guards and players will have to go through coming to the NBA. So we can't in week one, start trying to say a guy's going to be great or he's going to be terrible. We have to allow him time to become a pro before we can say something.
Preach. And we have a timeout on the floor here. 5:56 to go in the first quarter. Just getting going from Las Vegas.
Coach of the Toronto Raptors. Number one, how does that sound when you hear head coach in front of your name? How does that feel?
Well,
here the Toronto Raptors. Number one, how does that sound when you hear head coach in
Shooting a combined 2 of 18 so far. Pre-game, Ro Parrish caught up with that guy, Nick Nurse.
Here with Nick Nurse, the head coach of the Toronto Raptors. Number one, how does that sound when you hear head coach in front of your name? How does that feel?
Well, it sounds good. It's about 20 years as a head coach before I went to Toronto as an assistant, so we've been there before, but it's nice to be back in charge. Great organization, great team. Really looking forward to it.
So as far as coaching the team, what are you trying to implement? What are your goals for the Summer League today?
Well, I've kind of always been a roll up my sleeves and get to work guy, so I decided to coach the Summer League team. We've got 3 or 4 key guys that are trying to, make rosters. Those are, our focus. We got OG Anunoby here who's trying to take his game to another level, so we, kind of featuring him a little bit. And then we got some other guys here that we're just taking a look at that may join training camp or may end up on our G League team or whatever. Kind of the same everybody else is doing. Take your roster guys and get them better. Look at some new guys and see if anybody can crack in there.
All right, Ro and Coach Nurse, thank you very much. Bates Diop with a rejection right there. And here's Anunoby fouling and sending to the free throw line. I believe that was Cook, and it was. Now, I want to get back to the charge conversation that we were having. Kyle Lowry actually led the NBA in charges taken last year, 37. Ilyasova, splitting between Atlanta and Philadelphia, had 32. And DeMarcus Cousins, in about half a season, had 24.
It's a lot of charges for a big guy, too.
How about Kyle Lowry taking 37 charges?
Well, it's not surprising because a lot of times the small guy, the point guard, understands the game in a way where he's anticipating action, rotations, being in the right spots to pick up those charges. And then, Kyle's a powerfully built guy, so he has the strength to take that hit and be able to get back up and keep going.
By comparison, 11 years ago, Anderson Varejao in 2007 took 99 charges. And probably a few flops as well.
A few mixed in there. I had a few myself, but 99 charges.
Flops or charges taken?
Both.
Ball knocked out of bounds, and it'll be Minnesota basketball.
I want to go back to Nick Nurse's comments about, his own approach in terms of, even though he's the head coach of the team, he's a roll-up-his-sleeves type of guy. He wanted to coach the Summer League team. I felt the same way as a young head coach in New York. You can't replace the opportunity to be in that head coach seat, develop relationships with players that you're going to be relying on going forward, and just being the leader by example, that you're willing to work as hard as anybody in the summer as well as during the season and not being afraid to have that responsibility here. So good for him, and congratulations to him.
Okogie just missed once again for Minnesota. They're 0 of 11 from the field. Hey, there's Tom Crean, New Georgia Bulldogs head coach, right behind Nick Nurse there. And last year, ESPN analyst. Man, was he a good analyst.
He was good at it.
How good was Tom Crean as a studio analyst for ESPN college basketball last year?
Really, really good. He obviously didn't want to stay there. But,
well, that was a temporary engagement for sure.
Yeah. But congratulations to Tom. Great basketball coach, great basketball person, passion, energy. He's going to do a good job at the University of Georgia.
I actually saw him at the G-Day game, the spring practice game. They make a big deal out of that in Athens in the state of Georgia. The Bulldogs obviously huge down there, and I saw Tom Crean in the press box. What a cool guy.
Yeah, and
what a great personality he has.
When I look at Tom, you think about, and even in his comments, he spoke about the things that he learned through failure, through being let go from one place and now having the opportunity to go to another. And everybody can relate to that. There are people at home that love watching our game that have lost their job before. But you can't give up on yourself. Learn from it, improve, get better, and then when you get a chance the next time, go after it and be successful every chance you get.
He had OG Anunoby at Indiana. In our next game, the Miami Heat Summer League team, they have Yante Maton, SEC Player of the Year last year. Of course, Crean did not coach him, but Bulldogs represented here at Cox Pavilion. Neil Jefferson misses the left-handed layup. Minnesota's now 0 for 12 from the field, but still lead. How about that? And the rebound by Cook. Off the miss by McKinney. Cook can't score. And Emil Jefferson is there.
And that's where Emil Jefferson brings value.
13 misses and finally a make.
But Emil Jefferson, like we talked about, keeping that ball alive, getting it back into the basket. Missed a few easy ones early, but he's always going to be around the action, getting that ball back for you, getting extra possessions.
Toronto on the move with McKinney, and he scores on the left side with the right hand. Kind of an awkward finish there. And Emil Jefferson ahead of the pack, and he scores. The Timberwolves are officially hot. They've made 2 consecutive shots. And an illegal screen called on Minnesota. We'll give the ball back to Toronto.
And that was a combination of Miller still moving, yes, but I thought the guard went a little bit early. Miller McIntyre went a little bit early, and so number 13, Miller, didn't have a chance to set his feet and be ready to set that screen. So then you had the offensive foul call.
Jonathan Stark, number 7, into the game for the Timberwolves. He had some nice moments Friday night against Denver. The handoff here to Isaiah Cousins, and Cousins is fouled by OG Anunoby. Cousins was terrific, 15 points on Friday, and he'll be at the free throw line when we return to Las Vegas.
That is his second personal.
Summer League action rolls on throughout the day in Las Vegas on ESPN and the ESPN app, specifically ESPN2. It'll be the Wizards and Spurs at 3:30 Eastern. Then the Blazers and Hawks at 5:30. The Warriors and Rockets will run at 7:30. The Grizzlies and Magic at 9:30. And the Lakers and Bulls at 11:30 Eastern. All on ESPN2, all games streaming on the ESPN app. And those games will all be, I believe, at the Thomas and Mack Center. And we have 5 consecutive games here on NBA TV, all from Cox Pavilion. We will be here for the first 2. We've got the Raptors and the Timberwolves. And coming up next, we will have the Miami Heat and the Charlotte Hornets. And Isaiah Cousins gives Minnesota a 12-9 lead. Rick Kamla, Derek Fisher, Roe Parrish here in LV. Malachi Richardson, former first-round pick, number 22 into the game for the Raptors. OG making moves. Good defense by Bates Diop. But Miller McIntyre puts it in.
And Coach Nick Nurse talked about having the opportunity here in Summer League to feature Anunoby a little bit to start to help him develop, the ability to play with the basketball. A little post-up action. Didn't score, but every situation he's in like that, he'll start to understand, how can I get my shot against various defenses.
Bates Diop a little bit out of control, and Richardson too far ahead of OG Anunoby. He's got wingspan, but not that long. And there is Nick Nurse, head coach of the Raptors, Summer League head coach, as well as we talked about. I want to tell you a quick story about Nick Nurse. Several years ago, he was the coach of then the D-League All-Stars. And it was a game at the Thomas and Mack. They were playing the Los Angeles Clippers.
2 minutes.
And the D-League All-Stars at the time were winless. I believe they had lost their first 4 games. Well, they beat the Clippers on a last-second shot. Buzzer beater from right inside the timeline, splash. Nick Nurse going crazy. The D-Leaguers going crazy. and I looked over at the Clipper bench, and they were just shaking their head like look at these guys. And I don't think they knew, the Clippers, that the D-Leaguers were over.
Right.
And by the way, beating an NBA team is the G League. It was a summer league memory that I will never forget. And to see Nick Nurse's elation getting that victory really speaks to the competitiveness. And like you said, he likes to get grimy with his team, and he certainly did with that All-Star team back in the day.
No, that's a great story. I mean, it just speaks to winning regardless of D League, G League, or at the NBA level. Competitors still value winning games. As you take a look at Nick Nurse's resume, so to speak, and plenty of coaching experience prior to becoming the head coach now for the Toronto Raptors.
So he, two-time G League champ with Iowa and also Rio Grande Valley. He was the head coach of the Iowa Energy at the time when he was coaching those, as I said, then D-League All-Stars, now, of course, the G League. And here's Miller McIntyre with 5 on the shot clock. Splash.
Good recognition of the shot clock after getting the possession. And so many guards now at the NBA level having that ability off the dribble to kind of a little bit of a hesitation, lull the defense to sleep, and then pull up and knock it down.
Andrew White, who started Friday night, misses there. Malachi Richardson ran into White, who defended him well. And that hook shot will fall for Toronto. That's Siobhan Thompson. There was a time in this first quarter I didn't know if either team would get to double digits. And here we are under a minute. And Stark misses the deep 3. Richardson driving, got off balance and contorted his body. Was he more concerned about the contact than he needed to be right there?
It looked like he definitely took himself off the shooting plane looking for the contact. Got fortunate that he got the whistle late. But that's the one thing as we take a look at Fred VanVleet, who actually for a smaller guy is pretty good at finishing around the rim. But that's the one thing that also contributes to low shooting percentages for a lot of teams here in the summer league. It's hard to explain to guys how quickly the driving lanes close down at this level. And then once they get out here and they're playing against guys with this type of size, length, athleticism, maybe they were the best player on their college team. They were the college player of the year in their conference. And then you get out here and guys are bigger, faster, stronger than you are. It's a lot harder to get those shots to go in.
Malachi Richardson, one more for him. He was the 22nd overall pick in 2016 to Charlotte. Spent time with the Sacramento Kings. And now, after being traded by the Raptors, he's trying to get his career on track. And drawing a foul underneath is Andrew White.
Fouls on Raptors, number 27, Thompson.
Foul on Thompson. 28.2 ticks left in this first quarter. And Malachi Richardson, obviously, in the NCAA tournament, had all those great moments for Syracuse, but hasn't been able to translate that to the NBA yet.
Which it's tough to do. The Raptors have a good basketball team already. Obviously, Siakam, Anunoby, they've come in the last couple years and gotten some minutes. But when your backcourt is Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, those guys have been, those are all-star players. There are not a lot of minutes at those positions. VanVleet's come in and played well. DeLon Wright's come in and played well. So, Richardson just has to keep at it, continue to show patience and perseverance. But when you get your opportunity, you have to be ready. Part of that is playing well here in Vegas summer.
He's entering his 3rd year. Theoretically, Malachi Richardson should be doing big things here in Las Vegas. And we take a look at the bench mob last season. Just a fantastic bench. 5th in the NBA in overall points. When you talk about Miles and Siakam and Pirtle and the guards that you just mentioned, what a bench. What a second unit for Toronto.
Yeah, Jakob Poeltl's been great, similar to what I mentioned about Emil Jefferson, a guy that keeps the basketball alive, gets extra possessions for you, doesn't let a rebound go that he doesn't try to get after. And then C.J. Miles, my rook, in Utah. Love to see him doing well up in Toronto. Congratulations to this man right here on his 2-year deal to stay in Canada.
Las Vegas for the second quarter, Minnesota and Toronto. The Wolves lead by 2 despite shooting 4 of 22 from the field in that first quarter. But that's immaterial right now because it's Rick Kamla and Derek Fisher, and we have the president of basketball operations and head coach of the Timberwolves, Tom Thibodeau, with us. I assume you're enjoying your stay in Las Vegas, and I want to congratulate you and Timberwolves Nation on getting back to the playoffs. I know that breakthrough is huge for the community and also the franchise.
Yeah, thank you, Rick. It was a great year for us, and obviously we're thrilled to be back in the playoffs. And the challenge becomes greater this year. You know, obviously the West is loaded. It came down to the last game of the season, and but we had a lot of guys step up and play extremely well for us, and I thought we made great strides.
Coach, congratulations, like
Thank
Rick
you.
said, man. Really solid season. You wear both hats. We've talked to coaches. We've talked to general manager Sean Marks yesterday from Brooklyn. What is it that you're looking at for these young players here in Summer League? Those things that are going to separate guys that want to be a part of your program.
Well, obviously, we're talking about our draft picks first with Josh Okogie and Keita Bates-Diop. We're very excited about those guys and just the careers that they had in college and their makeup, their character is terrific, and then the defensive component. And obviously there's a big jump going from college to the pros. So, and this is a great opportunity for them. This is almost like a dry run at what training camp will be like. It's their first taste at NBA basketball, different rules. The game's different. And then, of course, there's a lot of other guys that are free agents that are capable of making rosters. So you want to see how they're progressing. And it's not uncommon for a guy to be out a year or two. And then, obviously, he's gained a lot of experience in the G League or overseas. And now they're ready to play in the NBA. So you're looking at everybody and not only the guys on your own team, but all the other teams as well. And this is a great setting for that.
Coach, I'm just an observer and, NBA TV, but I do mock drafts. I had Keita Bates-Diop mocked to the Timberwolves at number 20, okay? He falls to 48. Were you in the draft room like, oh, my God, Keita Bates-Diop is going to fall? I mean, just talk about that process and his plummet to you at 48. I mean, were you like, we're stealing here?
Yeah, and we felt there was great depth to the draft from – 15 to probably 45. There wasn't a lot of difference between those guys. So we were looking for fit, and we had discussed Keita at 20 quite extensively. And so when we had the opportunity to get him at 48, we were thrilled with that opportunity. And obviously there's a lot of work to be done and for any guy coming into the league. But the year he had last year, we thought he was a big part of the winning at Ohio State. So, we're just excited that we think that he's just scratching the surface, and we think he can get a lot better. And obviously, the wingspan of both of those guys, Josh has a 7-foot wingspan. Keita has a 7'3" wingspan. So, and obviously the defense is something that we have to improve, particularly with our second unit, and we think these guys are capable of doing that.
Coach, let's turn from your new guys to some of your returning guys in Andrew Wiggins, Jimmy Butler, Karl Anthony Towns. What is it that will be required from them to take that next jump? You make the playoffs. I've seen Karl in L.A. working hard. He's hungry and wants to take that next step. What is it you're imparting on those guys about getting better and getting closer to having an opportunity?
Yeah, well, I think when you talk about Karl and Andrew, you're talking about two guys that are really young and have done some terrific things already in their career. And the exciting part of that is that they're going to get a lot better also because of their age. And you can throw Tyus Jones in with that group as well. And then, of course, with Jimmy and Karl are both all-NBA players. Both guys made the All-Star team. And then you can't forget about the contributions of Jeff Teague and Taj Gibson, which I thought were huge for our starters. Our starting unit was very, very efficient. It was top 5 in offense, and it was 7th in defense. So obviously the bench is something that we have to shore up.
So, Coach, I want to ask you about your guys. Okay, Derrick Rose is a Tibbs guy.
Yeah.
Taj Gibson is a Tibbs guy. Jimmy Butler's a Tibbs guy. Just talk about sort of that Tibbs lineage and the guys that are linked to you and the guys that you have great relationships with and that loyalty that seems to go on for years and years and years.
Well, it was opportunity, really. We felt with Jimmy the opportunity to get an All-NBA player, that's unusual. So, and he's just going into his prime. So, and we gave up good players to get him. But we felt it was something that was necessary. And Taj has been terrific throughout his career. In my first time around with him in Chicago, he didn't start for us. He'll fill whatever role you ask him to fill. But oftentimes in Chicago, he finished games. So I knew how valuable. I thought he was a little undervalued. I thought he played very well for OKC when he was with them as well. So I knew he would be a good fit. And then Derek, it was opportunity. It's, and unfortunately for him, the injury sort of derailed him a little bit, and then when we had the opportunity to pick him up, I thought he was terrific down the stretch for us as well.
Coach, what's missing, right? Something in terms of some teams feel like it's personnel. We need another piece. Other teams feel like, like you said, we need to get better defensively. So whether that's personnel, whether it's mindset, but what is it that you feel is missing for your team to make that next level jump?
Yeah, and I thought the big thing was, and obviously the challenge of our defense. And I thought our starters made that jump last year. So to be, when you're ranked 7th, obviously, and we want to be in the top 5 with our starters. With our bench, I think that's where we have to grow. We have to get better. I thought the important thing for us, particularly when Jimmy got hurt in the first game after the All-Star game, and then down the stretch, I thought our guys gained valuable experience because virtually every game was like a playoff game, and then the last game of the season was basically a Game 7. And then to get playoff experience was huge for us as well. So those were all pluses, and then we have to build on that and know that the challenge will be even greater next year.
Coach, have a great time here in Vegas. Really appreciate you joining us. And again, congrats on the playoffs, and I know there will be many more. Appreciate it, Coach.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Number 6, Augusto Lima.
We're tied at 26, Minnesota and Toronto. Rick Kamla, Derek Fisher, and Ro Parrish on the sideline. Ro, what do you have?
Couple of NBA news and notes to pass along to you guys. It looks like the Spurs, number one, are unlikely to match the Grizzlies' offer sheet for Kyle Anderson. That's the 4-year, $37 million offer. And Zaza Pachulia has signed with the Detroit Pistons. That's a 1-year deal for $2.4 million. And Brook Lopez has reached an agreement with the Milwaukee Bucks. So a lot of player movement continues on even as the summer league goes on. Back to you guys.
Ro, thank you so much. And where do you want to, take this conversation with those 3 nuggets from Ro? You want to talk about Brook to Milwaukee? That's an interesting move to me. Zaza Pachulia obviously won a couple of rings with Golden State. He's now moving on. And, nothing's confirmed yet, as Ro just said about Kyle Anderson, but there are reports that the Spurs are unlikely to match. That would mean, of course, that he would be joining the Memphis Grizzlies. The Brook Lopez move by Milwaukee is interesting. You've got John Henson. You've got the young fella Thon Maker. And so maybe Brook Lopez is the starter over them. How do you see that kind of shaping up there in Milwaukee?
Yeah, that's the one that jumps out to me. I mean, JB Bickerstaff in Memphis, I think they are putting together a nice group there, and you have to look out for what they're doing. But Brook Lopez in Milwaukee makes sense to me when you think about trying to create more space on the floor for Giannis to get downhill and get to the front of the basket, which we know he's almost impossible to stop. Brook Lopez is a guy that when you need to, you can play through him down low. He's a good and willing passer. Played good defensively for the Lakers last year, better than most people thought he was. But then he still has that ability to stretch the floor offensively at the center position that then allows your guards more space, Chris Middleton, Giannis, to play with that lane wide open. So I like that addition for Milwaukee in terms of being a playoff team and trying to take that next jump.
John Lucas III looking on. Moments ago, Lima was called for a flagrant foul 1. That led to the free throws by Emile Jefferson, and that corner 3 was authored up by Malachi Richardson. And here's Josh Okogie slithering in and missing. And Bates Diop was there. I thought, going back to our interview with Tom Thibodeau and Tibbs, we really appreciate the time. It's interesting, about the Bates Diop, and he said that that the Timberwolves were strongly considering taking him at number 20. First of all, that makes me feel pretty good about mocking him to the Wolves at 20. But it also speaks to they probably didn't think Josh Okogie would be there. I mean, if they're kind of thinking about Bates Diop and then they take Okogie and then wait on Bates Diop to the second round, I just thought I love that intel. I love that draft room intel that we can get from the great basketball minds like Tom Thibodeau.
Yeah, and in particular as the coach and president, really being able to see from the big picture, not just, okay, who's going to help me win games right now as a coach, but also thinking about what does my organization need going forward in order to continue to develop and win games in the future. Speaking of two guys both with wingspan, defense, those were the two things he mentioned about Josh Okogie and Bates Diop, and both of those guys bring that. He also mentioned what he felt like was the depth of the draft, where so many guys between 15, 20 down to 45, 48, where you got Bates Diop, were really even and equal. So the draft was, I think, a really good draft. A lot of teams got good players that can maybe help them win today, but for sure will help them win in the future.
Yeah, I thought it was a great point. From 15 to 45, there wasn't a whole lot of difference. It's just kind of what you need, who you like, who worked out well for you. And in terms of improving the depth of the team, the starters for the Timberwolves all play major minutes. And right now, the second unit I have on my depth chart is Derrick Rose at point, Okogie behind Butler at the 2, Bates Diop behind Wiggins at the 3. They've picked up or have agreed to, according to reports, Anthony Tolliver behind Taj Gibson, and of course Gorgui Dieng behind Karl Anthony Towns. So you might like some more vets on the wing rather than relying on Okogie and Bates Diop as rookies immediately coming in off the bench. So maybe some more moves need to be made. But Okogie and Bates Diop, as the roster's constructed right now, appear like they're going to be rotation players.
It does appear that way at the moment. Jamal Crawford was there last year, got a lot of minutes as a guard in Minnesota. So if he's not back and they don't re-sign a veteran type of player, yes, those minutes are going to go to these young players. But I think Tibbs might be okay with that based on their ability to defend with their length, being able to cover things on the defensive side, which he's looking for from his bench. He felt like his starters really had a good defensive year, number 7 in the league. He wants them to get into the top 5, but he felt like there was a defensive drop-off from his bench that these two young guys might be able to help fill up.
I know Okogie is going to help in that regard.
For sure.
Bates Diop, for me, the jury's out on what he's going to bring defensively to the NBA. We know Okogie with the hustle, the strength, the wingspan. He is an elite athlete.
Yes.
Bates Diop is a good athlete. Okogie is an elite athlete.
He is an elite athlete, but he has a high motor. He goes hard, and that is something that a lot of times takes young players, a little bit of time to develop. They're not sure of themselves. They don't know what they do well yet in the league, so sometimes they're tentative and they kind of are reserved. But Okogie, he goes after the game. Missed shot, whatever it is, he's getting after it, and that's something that's going to bode well for him in his career.
Traveling called on Alfonso McKinney, 12 turnovers for Toronto, and they trail by 6. As you look at Okogie, he has 3 points on 1 of 5 here so far, and the shooting has not been good for him in Las Vegas. He was 2 of 10 on Friday, so you add it up, that is 3 of 15. But again, we have seen so many prominent players struggle with the shot, whether it's Sacramento, Utah, here in Las Vegas. For the umpteenth time, we want to just caution you. People shouldn't even look at field goal shooting here in the Summer League, because it just time and time again you see this guy was 1 for 7 from 3. This guy was 0 of 9 for 3. And these are terrific young players cutting their teeth in the Vegas Summer League, and people just tend to overreact when a guy has a 3 for 15.
Yeah, think about it this way. It's baseball season, right? And these guys have been playing on the Little League field. And then they've been hitting home runs, and they look good. They can hit the ball really well. Then all of a sudden, you show up in Vegas Summer League, and this is a big boys field. And the ball doesn't go over the fence as far and as easy as it used to on the Little League field. And so it takes time to develop the power, the strength, the ability to swing the bat and hit the home runs like they did on the Little League field. And in basketball, we don't always look at it that way, but it really is that type of transition, getting used to playing in more space and having to make plays over bigger, stronger guys that you're just not accustomed to, and it takes some time.
Okogie with the miss and just slapped his hands together. He's a little bit frustrated, and Bates Diop got the offensive rebound and then drew the foul. So free throws coming for Keita Bates-Diop. These will be the 21st and 22nd free throw attempts by the Wolves already. And Bates-Diop off with the first. Now, in terms of just the consistently bad three-point shooting that we have seen from virtually everybody, from SAC to Utah and here to Vegas, could it be attributed to the shorter college line and the adjustment to the NBA line of 23 feet 9 inches?
That's a big part of it for sure. That's a big part of it. That line is a lot farther back when you show up in Utah and Las Vegas. But they'll get better over time. We'll continue to watch here.
It's law firm of Lucas and Lucas. John Lucas II on the left and John Lucas III on the right. And you've got a legend on the left and you've got a grinder, a lifer on the right, the son of the great John Lucas. And Luke III played for a variety of teams and has settled in under Tom Thibodeau with Minnesota. And we talk about, Tibbs guys. And John Lucas III is a Tibbs guy. And you know how, coaches, players move around a lot, so Thibodeau probably won't be in Minnesota forever. And if there is a next stop for him, Lucas III might follow him to that next stop.
He might, and we talked about Tibbs as being, he is a basketball aficionado. He loves the game, spends every possible hour trying to get better, trying to figure out ways to help his team win and be successful. And I think he sees a lot of those qualities in John Lucas III, a guy that just genuinely loves the game of basketball and is willing to give himself all to it. And that's why those guys work well as a group.
So we got a jump ball here, and it's won by Toronto, but then Bates-Diop gets it into Jefferson, and he wisely dribbles out. Here's Okogie, left wing three, straight on but long, and it pops out to Jefferson. Was that Jack Sikma sitting next to Tom Thibodeau?
It did look that way.
Wow. Jack Sikma taking us back to the old Seattle Supersonics. What a player he was. And Keita Bates-Diop gets the floater to roll in.
That's nice. That for a big guy to be able to shot fake from behind the three-point line, put it down a couple dribbles, see the defense rotate over, and then adjust his momentum towards the basket to kind of get up and shoot the little push floater. Impressive for a young player. And
that line drive three just laser beams in from Malcolm Miller. And here comes Toronto. They're within 5.
And Rick, you mentioned the poor
Bates-Diop. Oh, I thought he had menace in mind, and Emil Jefferson lays it in. It was like Bates-Diop was looking for a highlight jam.
He did, but that's what drew the defense in closer, and then he makes the right play to his teammate, dropping it off for the easy 2 with Emil Jefferson.
Jefferson has 7. Bates-Diop has 9. Leading scorers for Toronto are McKinney and Miller, and also Richardson off the bench with 7. And there is Jack Sikma to the to the right of your screen. They're sitting next to Coach Thibodeau. And Sikma back in the day had the man perm, didn't he?
The man perm. That's
I don't know what
I've heard that term. I like that. Hey, and it looks like it's still laying down pretty good up there, man.
Yes.
Jack Sikma still got
very
the
healthy
locks.
head of hair.
Yes. But Rick, you mentioned the three-point shooting, and maybe is it the line being farther back? It definitely contributes to it in a major way. But again, adjusting from the college game or overseas, or even in the G League in some ways for some guys, and then you get here to Vegas Summer League, and there are more guys that have the athletic ability to close out to those shots quicker. They can get there faster. So those shooting lanes aren't as open as you saw in college or maybe in the G League last year, because there's a better, maybe all-around collection of talent here in Las Vegas.
Timeout on the floor. Wolves by 7. We'll be right back. Raptors, and you see what he did a year ago. 8.6 points, 3.2 assists, but the numbers don't really tell the story with Van Vliet. It was the clutchness in the fourth quarter and his ratings and plus minus and all the stuff that he brought intangibly to the Raptors in the fourth quarter. He really powered the team in a lot of, out there with the starters. He was a guy that really was a big player for them.
Yes, every team needs a guy like Van Fleet, which is why a lot of teams probably were hoping to be able to call in another guy that's a good ball handler, good decision maker, can make shots, allows you to take maybe your best players off the ball, run your offense. Started with Van Fleet. He did a great job of being able to run the team. Also limiting the drop-off when Kyle Lowry comes off the floor. Having a guy that Dwayne Casey, now Nick Nurse, can trust in those situations, that even if Lowry's in foul trouble, maybe an injury, doesn't play a particular night, Fred VanVleet can handle those responsibilities of the lead guard position. And congratulations to him on his deal.
So there is VanVleet. He will join Roe Parrish at halftime. And you see Roe with the big smile. Way to go. Roe hamming it up for the camera. I love it. There he is.
We see you, Roe P.
And we will be with Masai Ujiri, the shot caller for the Toronto Raptors at the top of the third quarter. Looking forward to that. Miller McIntyre. And it's put back up and in by Siobhan Thompson. Toronto trying to generate a turnover. They can't. Emile Jefferson debates Diop. Spinning, floating, no. Emile Jefferson is there. And his hook shot won't go. Emile Jefferson is so smart, though. Right place at the right time virtually every time. And we're inside 10 seconds here in the first half. The first of 5 games on NBA TV. All coming to you live from Cox Pavilion. Marquise Teague with one. Nope, it's long. And that is the first half. Brutal shooting for both teams as Minnesota shoots 28.2%. Toronto 41.7%. And Minnesota will take a 45-38 lead to halftime. Free throw shooting, a big deal for the Wolves. They made 20 of 24. Roe Parrish and Fred VanVleet coming up right around the corner.
Welcome back to the MGM Resort Summer League. Of course, it's the NBA. We are fantastic here. Sitting right next to a man who needs no introduction. The man that just recently secured the bag. We're talking about Fred VanVleet. Number one, congratulations to you. How did it feel when you actually inked that contract?
Thank you. Man, it's a surreal moment for me. Obviously, you know, we work hard, and these are the things that we expect to do. And you expect to be in these positions, but not to actually do it and to go through it that day, to actually sign and have all my family there, it was a special day for me.
No doubt a special moment. So last year was a very special season. You guys had a franchise high in victories. Season didn't necessarily end the way you wanted it to. So looking forward to next season, what's going to change for you? You got a brand new head coach in Nick Nurse who's already with the organization. Has he spoken with you how your role is going to change, or is it going to change for next season?
You'll see a lot of the same for me. Obviously, individually, you try to get better each year. So I'm going to try to come back a more complete player, a better player, and do, you know, a little bit more of the same of that impact off the bench, but just at a higher level each night and just take it to another notch. So I'm looking forward to that.
So looking at the Eastern Conference, a lot of shake-up, free agency, players have moved around, a lot of good players going to the Western Conference. Things have changed in the East. What are your thoughts on the way things look?
It's been a crazy summer, you know, guys moving around, and it's, you know, until training camp, a lot of these teams are going to look different. So all you can do is focus on yourself, focus on your group that you got, and, you know, try to be the best team you could be starting the season and just keep growing, you know, so that way come April and May that you're at your best.
So I noticed you're out here for Summer League. Of course, Vegas is a place to where you might celebrate certain things, but also you're here to support the team. I've seen a number of players out here supporting their teammates in the Summer League. Tell me a little bit about that and what you're doing working out.
Yeah, it's important. It's important to be here with the group. Got to practice with the guys. Got to work out a little bit, be around the obviously, we got a new coaching staff, so need to be around that and, you know, continue to grow that familiarity. And also, you know, I came up through this way, undrafted. Kind of Summer League was my first shot at this thing. So for some of the guys on the team that's trying to make a roster, you know, just try to be here for them and a little inspiration, a little motivation.
Love the fact that you bet on yourself, came in undrafted just like you mentioned. Now you got the bag. We just talked about that. But also you have a couple other things popping. I noticed you got a custom logo on your vest right now. So tell me a little bit about the custom logo and what you have going on and what's about to drop.
Yeah, started my clothing brand about 9-10 months ago. got an online store up, fvv23.com, and also just opened my flagship store back home in Rockford, Illinois. So just, trying to add some business, to the resume as well, and something that can kind of impact the culture from my standpoint.
Always for the culture. He's not a businessman. He's a businessman. Fred VanVleet secured the bag. Roe Paris, this is what we're doing. It's Summer League. We'll be right back with second half action.
We're back at MGM Resorts NBA Summer League from Las Vegas. We're on the campus of UNLV at Cox Pavilion. Wolves leading the Raptors 45-38. Rick Hamlin, Derek Fisher, Roe Parrish, and we have Raptors president Masai Ujiri joining us here. And Masai, big fan of your work. We just talked about the second unit that you guys have. That was built through the draft and shrewd drafting, but I can't bury the lead. Huge decision at the head coaching spot. Dwayne Casey wins Coach of the Year. No longer with Toronto. You make the decision to promote Nick Nurse from assistant to head coach. Talk about how difficult of a decision that was for you and the franchise.
Unbelievable, difficult situation. Dwayne Casey was huge for us, part of our fabric and what we try to build in our culture and the team. And as sometimes, it gets to a point where it's time to maybe do something different, and it's one of the toughest decisions I've made, and just continues doing the same thing over. I think we had to kind of make some changes, and sometimes those things happen in the business is tough, but he was unbelievable for us, and we really appreciate what he did for the franchise.
Masai, we've tried to ask, coaches and front office guys what Summer League presents as an opportunity in terms of evaluation. And we've talked a lot about the players, but for you now as the general manager in Toronto with a new head coach, how do you view Summer League in terms of evaluating your staff, how they're impacting the players, how players may be reacting to them in their coaching? How do you use those opportunities here in Vegas from that standpoint as well?
Well, it's unique. I don't know how you guys watch that first half. It's a tough first half to watch. But no, with a new coach, I think it's a little different. Usually you have your head coach and he'll have an assistant or somebody in player development. You've been there. Yes. Coaching, and but now he's new. He wants to be part of it and make an impact on the young guys and start to teach some of the things that he wants to do. Not only training camp, regular season, and with the main players. And we had a lot of our players come into Vegas and work out with him and work out with the Summer League team, which is what you want, the interaction and learning some of the new things that he's going to do with the team. So that's kind of new, because usually with Coach Casey, obviously he'll be one of the assistants coaching. So Nick wants to be right in there with them and teaching some of our young guys, the D-League players that we had, a couple guys on our roster, Malcolm Miller, obviously OG, and Malachi, those guys, and it's great to come and see young players play. You want to see new guys and how you evaluate, and scouts are all working and player personnel. It's fun time. There's a lot of interaction too. It's a good place to talk to player personnel and GMs, other GMs, and love the Summer League.
Talk about the trajectory of OG Anunoby. Last year in the playoff series with Cleveland, he's guarding LeBron James, and he's a big part of the plan in your bench, and obviously has ascended to a starting role on your team, kind of as that defensive stopper, the put out the fire guy. So talk about what he learned from going up against LeBron James and the Cavaliers last year in the playoffs.
Well, there's nothing more valuable like for a young player. We usually teams with a lot of young players, you're always in a rebuilding situation, and so sometimes we are lucky that we had some winning, and he's part of when you can integrate young players and you have older players and it's a winning program. Then I think the teaching sometimes is better, is easier, and he grasped that. He jumped right in, and he's easy to coach, and he's easy to talk to. Where he's trying to do the basic things where it's less mistakes, maybe the normal pass. A lot of young guys are playing with other younger guys, and you make mistakes, but. OG played with Kyle, played with Damar, and those guys. And when those guys give you a dirty look after you've made one one mistake, then the next time, you know what to do. And he's very good with that, stay in his place. But he started to grow, and the older guys understand that.
We see OG's playoff numbers here on the graphic. Masai, what will you view as success for this coming season in terms of your expectations, what you want to see? It's not always wins and losses, as you said, but what is it that you're going to look for in your group to see that we made the right decision, we wanted to go in a different direction, and yes, it appears that we're moving forward? What are those things that are going to jump out?
Well, I think if you look at our team, sometimes it seems like we figured out the regular season, but you knock wood, like there you need luck, you need preparation, consistency, you need a good culture. I think with our veteran players, they've done well grasping these young guys and teaching them. The young guys too have stepped up. For us, is win. You win in sports. You play to win. There's nothing more. You don't do anything else but play to win, and that's what we want to do. And we've reached a certain stage in the NBA, and we're trying to make that jump. And I think these guys will keep fighting and trying and try to make that jump.
Well, Masai, we really appreciate your time. Enjoy the rest of your stay here in Las Vegas, and good luck as you enter the new frontier here with Nick Nurse. Appreciate the time.
Thank you. Thanks, Rick.
We'll be right back.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
We got a superstar in the house, ladies and gentlemen. To the left of Fred VanVleet is multiple-time All-Star DeMar DeRozan, one of the best scorers in the National Basketball Association. And Rick Hamlin, Derek Fisher, Ro Parrish here in Las Vegas. When you talk about a guy who has steadily improved year after year, he is one of the best examples to me in NBA history in terms of expanding the range and the playmaking, because he came in as strictly a slasher. Get to the free throw line, really couldn't shoot, and now he dominates the mid-range. I'm just really impressed with where he has come from a rookie out of USC to the multiple-time All-Star he is now.
No, I agree, Rick. DeMar DeRozan has put together a great career that is continuing to improve and blossom year in and year out. This past year, showing the ability and making the decision that, yeah, I do dominate the mid-range, but for my team and my teammates, I'm going to start shooting the threes and space the floor offensively to reward our new offensive style of play that the Raptors put out last season. So I like what DeRozan is doing, and honestly, for them to make another jump, he's going to continue, as all great players have to do, continue to give more. You'll probably see DeRozan, as Nick Nurse mentioned himself, maybe even on the defensive end, expanding his game and trying to do more out there to help the Raptors win.
Let's look at a couple of highlights here. OG Anunoby, the spin, and then Josh Okogie on the other end. Looked like he was going in for the jam, and then with the foul had to sort of lay it in, but that's a strong take right there by Okogie and a three-point play.
Yes, two young players with size and strength to make plays off the dribble, not afraid to physically go and create the contact and look for the finishes, and that's what really jumps out to me here, with the best seats in the house here at Vegas Summer League. The size and strength of these guys at age 18, 19, and 20 is just absolutely off the charts. And so it allows them to really play the game with no fear. A lot of young guys come into the next level professionally and they physically just can't compete. These young guys physically can do it, so you really start to think about just mentally them maturing and evolving as young men and then allowing the physical part to match up with it.
Great save right there by Toronto, but into the Wolves and the pass to Jefferson from Terrell, and Emile Jefferson continues to impress. Back to DeRozan for a moment. Back in 2017, hit 33 three-pointers. Last year, 89, to your point about spacing the floor for his teammates, and also upped his assists last year to 5.2 by far a career high for him.
And that speaks to, again, the commitment to himself, the work he's putting in the offseason. He comes back in shape year in and year out. And then I think a big thing, the courage to speak out about mental health and the importance of that balance. Being a great professional athlete is not just a physical approach. It's about mentally being in a good place, having good mental health, and doing those things. So DeMar speaking out about that. Kevin Love spoke out about it as well. And that's a great thing that guys at the level, the all-star level of DeMar DeRozan speaking out about mental health.
Jordan Lloyd hitting that three with the shot clock running down. The artist formerly known as Ron Artest, currently Meta World Peace, has done some terrific things in terms of raising awareness for mental health as well.
Yes, he has.
Now,
love that.
Yeah, your former
Artest,
teammate.
formerly known as Ron.
I've always been a big fan of his, and it hasn't all been peaches and cream, but I've always been a big fan of MWP. On that graphic for DeRozan, the thing that really stood out to me is that DeMar DeRozan is the all-time Raptors leader in points. And you think about Vince Carter. And I know, he's spent many years there, not his whole career as Richardson scores, but just the fact that DeRozan has more points in Raptors history than Vince Carter, I think, says a lot.
It does say a lot. I mean, Vince Carter had an amazing career, really put basketball on the map in Canada for the entire country. And so, his efforts in Toronto will never be forgotten. But DeMar DeRozan has been consistent. It's been a sustained effort and a continuation of growth and improvement year in and year out. And so those numbers are only going to get bigger as long as he's wearing the Raptors jersey.
Chris Bosh is actually number 2. DeRozan at 13,296. Chris Bosh number 2 at 10,275. And Vince Carter third at 9,420. Kyle Lowry's fourth all-time in points in Raptors history at 7,697. And thanks to our outstanding stat guy, David Freed, for his help with that. So the Timberwolves have a 5-point lead here, 2:02 to go in the third quarter. And Van Vliet just said something that has DeMar laughing pretty well here at Cox Pavilion.
It's Compton in the house.
2:02 to go in the third, and the action continues all week long in Las Vegas. Don't miss your chance to see tomorrow's stars today at MGM Resorts NBA Summer League. Get tickets at NBAtickets.com. Very affordable family fun. We've been coming out here for years, decades it feels like, and what a blast the Vegas Summer League is. And Malachi Richardson is ablaze. He continues to knock down shots. He's up to 15 points, and he has made all 4 of his 3-point shots, and we got a 2-point game.
Well, while we were running our mouth and doing a lot of interviews, started making some shots out here. Both teams are shooting the basketball a little bit better, and Masai Ujiri talked about Malachi Richardson having an opportunity to show, that he's ready to take another jump in his evolution as a player. Good action coming out of the timeout for the Raptors. Nick Nurse drawing up. Ball change sides of the floor, couple of screens away. Richardson comes off a good down screen, knocks down the 3 at the top of the key.
And like we talked about, he's entering year 3. I'm not trying to put pressure on Malachi, but he should be doing this. He is a third-year guy going against rookies and some people who won't even be in the NBA next year. To me, this is what he's supposed to be doing right now.
Yes, and it looks like he's starting to believe that, though. That's where the performance starts to happen out on the court is when you as a player, Fred VanVleet talked about, trusting in yourself. And sometimes for young players, that calendar date is different, where things really start to click and their game comes together, and it matches up with the confidence and it matches up with where they are mentally and just their commitment to the game, how to train, how to get rest and recover so that they can train harder the next day. That's not something that everybody just comes into the league with those things all figured out.
What a move by Josh Okogie. He was going right. A player got in his path, and he kind of slithered over to the left and finished. And another bucket down low. And that is Siobhan Thompson. Moments ago, you saw the baseline jam by Raleigh Alkins, the rookie out of Arizona, who's built to last. And the pace certainly has picked up here. 71 apiece, and it's Gray for 3. That wouldn't go. And good defensive play there by Siobhan Thompson. Alkins is fouled. on the way out for Toronto. So here's a look at that Alkins jam.
Nice move. And then again, Okogie getting to the rim, man. Again, look at how strong these guys are. They're built, the shoulders, the strength. So they're going to the basket. They're not concerned with who's coming over or rotating over because they know that they can handle it. And basketball in recent years, sometimes the weight room has been viewed negatively. Basketball players, sometimes they feel like the weights are going to make them too tight. Their shoulders aren't going to be free enough to shoot the basketball well. So it's good to see guys respecting the fact that being strong can be a positive thing to have out on the court.
Under 10 seconds to go in the third, and they call a backcourt violation. And Gray is like, that wasn't. That was last touch by Toronto, and that was Miller McIntyre defending him. John Lucas III pleading his case. Fish, what do you see here?
It looked like the ball was hit, but it wasn't.
Nope, just lost the handle. Pretty good sell job by Gray and Lucas, though. No, it's off Toronto. So the Raptors now, chance to build on their 2-point lead. Their last lead before this was 22-21 early in the second. And a step-back three by Lloyd won't go. And so the action is picked up, and we have a thrilling fourth quarter to come here from Cox Pavilion. The Raptors up to 54% field goal shooting. Masai Ujiri was a good luck charm.
Yes, he was.
Fourth quarter action to come. The Raptors lead the Timberwolves 73-71. And at the beginning of the third quarter, we spoke with Raptors president Masai Ujiri. We ran out of time, and I wanted to talk with him about this initiative. He has announced a plan to build courts across Africa. It's called Giants of Africa. It's in Kenya on July 16th. Camps begin in August, and it's Kenya, Rwanda, and Nigeria. And that goes back, Derek, to our conversation with Dikembe Mutombo yesterday, who said that he feels like more African players should be kind of steering their path towards the NBA. And what better way to get that done than build more courts throughout Africa?
Yes.
And allow players to play, get better, and get their dream on the track, like that guy, Josh Okogie.
Yes. In life, a lot of times, people have abilities and skills and talents, and maybe there's just not a stage or a place to deposit those, to be able to develop and hone that craft as a young kid. So for Masai, Dikembe, and guys like that, for their home country, to be willing to build courts, build hospitals, to allow for people to live better lives and improve themselves. Just great things. And the NBA is full of men and women that continue to do great things off the court as well. And that's one of the great parts about being associated with our game.
Malachi Richardson caught up in the air, and then a foul on Richardson to not allow Minnesota to get a fast break. And always wheeling and dealing. Masai Ujiri, one of the best shot callers in the NBA. By the way, the NBA Africa game this year is August 4th, so mark your calendar for that.
You see Adrian Griffin to Nick Nurse's right in Oklahoma City last year as an assistant coach, and now making the move up north of the border to join Toronto. And he's also a good rising young coach, doing some good things on the sidelines.
And Okogie draws the foul on Alkins, so free throws coming for him.
The Raptors, number 1, Raleigh Alkins.
Adrian Griffin is a Tibbs product as well.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, spent a lot of time.
Boy, we've been working together
Tibbs.
3 days now. We're in each other's brains, man. I was kind of isn't he a Tibbs guy?
Yeah,
you're right.
Number 34, Jared Terrell, returns for the Wolves.
There's Coach Thibodeau.
Scott Layden back behind Tibbs there. Know Scott from my year in Utah.
Boy, a lot of history dating back to his father, Frank, and Scott. I believe he's been with the Knicks, the Spurs.
He has.
The Jazz, now the Timberwolves.
Scott's a great man.
I worked with Scott for several years at NBA TV back in the early days at Secaucus before we moved down to Atlanta with Turner Sports. Scott Layden, great guy.
Yes.
One of the nicest guys you'll meet. There is Scott.
Calvin Booth right behind Scott Layden.
That is the brain trust right there for the Minnesota Timberwolves.
That's the great thing about, Summer League. Tibbs mentioned it during the interview, just being able to sit here throughout the day and watch, NBA basketball, watch all these young players, pursuing their dreams, trying to make the club, trying to cement their place on the rosters, etc. And not just watching your guys, though, being able to appreciate what other teams are doing. For a coach like Tibbs, who has a great basketball mind, as you see the great Juwan Howard sitting there as well, you get to learn and absorb information, how other teams are playing offense, the things they're doing defensively, and catalog all of those things that you can use later to prepare yourself for games during the season. So just a great basketball mecca during this 10-11 days here in Las Vegas.
Juwan Howard, assistant coach with the Miami Heat. It'll be the Heat and the Hornets coming up next on NBA TV following the conclusion of this tight ball game between Minnesota and Toronto. Miller McIntyre with the Rock, 11 and white, has sent a charge into this Toronto team. Energy, defense. He's been terrific in a kick ball, so 14 on the shot clock for the Raps.
And as a backup guard, even in a summer league situation, that's what you have to do. That's a requirement. That you used to have to do that to get on the floor. Your job wasn't to come in and look to get buckets. Your job was to come in, hold the fort down while the starting point guard is getting rest, make good decisions, don't turn the basketball over, like he happened to do there. But he's done a lot of really good things for this Raptors team since he's been out there.
What a scoop shot, falling down with the left hand by Jonathan Stark. You got to love the lefty.
Gotta love the lefty. Stark getting to the basket, finishing in traffic. Two Raptors coming after him. With the lefty finish, wasn't even looking. Back to Vegas in a minute.
.45 to go in the fourth quarter, and we're back underway. Leading scorer for the Wolves, Keita Bates-Diop with 16. Off the bench, Malachi Richardson leading the Raptors with 15, and Richardson with the ball. 8-0 run by the Wolves to take this 6-point lead. And here's a look at the balanced scoring for the Wolves. Bates-Diop and then Okogie with 14. Terrell with 13. Cook with 11. Jefferson 9. Stark 9. A lot of Timberwolves cooking here in Las Vegas, and that is Miller McIntyre making amends for that turnover a moment ago.
Yeah, and you see the determination in his face. Nick Nurse was disappointed in his guard, turning that basketball over prior to the timeout, coming back, knocking down the bucket, and then getting back after it on the defensive end.
Here's Cook driving. He was fouled by Miller McIntyre. Got his hand caught in the cookie jar.
Malcolm Miller, that is his 5th personal, 2nd team.
Oh, they actually got that whistle on Miller, number 13.
Correction, 14.
Stark yo-yoing, and now pulls from right inside the three-point line and hits. Minnesota takes a 5-point lead.
And it's so impressive, man. I continue to be impressed with so many young guys on the various teams we've watched that, maybe they don't play a ton of minutes in the first half, or throughout the course of the game, but they're coming in and they're having good 2, 3, maybe 4-minute stretches where they're doing some really, really good things. And so even if it's not the Minnesota Timberwolves specifically for Jonathan Stark, there are other NBA teams here, 29 other teams that are watching you perform day in and day out. So coming in, you can put together 3 good minutes, can give a team an opportunity to say, hey, this kid is solid. If he had an opportunity, we need a backup guard or a third guard. Maybe let's give him a call and bring him to training camp.
Timberwolves ball up 5. Stark takes the Jefferson screen this time, misses, and the rebound comes to OG Anunoby. Emile Jefferson, 1 point away from a second consecutive double-double here in Vegas. He's got 9 and 11 as we speak. And here's Potts off the front of the rim. One of the great names here at the Vegas Summer League, Giddy Potts. Driving and scoring for Toronto is Jordan Lloyd. And Jordan Lloyd has been terrific off the bench. He has 14, Fish. He's made 4 of 6 shots.
Nice aggressive drive. I mean, Bates Diop has long arms. Not an easy guy to finish over the top of. But Lloyd taking that contact right to Bates Diop and finishing over the top.
3-point game. Here's Cook. And it's wide left. And Okogie watches it go out of bounds.
Number 27, Sean Thompson. And number 30, Andrew Rousey. All three
There's
for the
Giddy
Raptors.
Potts, 22-year-old out of Middle Tennessee State. And he's built to last, as you can see.
Yes, he is. My older brother attended Middle Tennessee State
Really?
University. I remember going to Murfreesboro, Tennessee, watching him as a kid and being in tears when they would lose the game, as though I was out there playing as well, man. Feeling bad for my brother, but had a good career, man. Played a couple years at Middle Tennessee, and good to see Giddy out here representing MTSU.
Ball knocked out of bounds by Minnesota. It'll be Raptors ball with 6 on the shot clock. Giddy's got to be a nickname, right? Do you think Giddy was given to him by Mama?
Maybe, or it may be short for a much longer name that
Okay.
they knew the two of us could not pronounce.
Good call. Here's Thompson. The extended left-handed push shot goes, and we got a 1-point game. As he was rising for that, I was like, boy, the level of difficulty on this is just too high, but he made it.
And he's put together a solid game. I mean, he's knocked down some buckets.
He's got 10.
5 or 6 rebounds. You know, he's been active on the defensive end as well.
Nice pass, and Stark converts for Minnesota. He's up to 13 on 6 of 9. Boy, these guys could not make a shot in the first quarter, and ever since, it has been exhilarating. And here's OG Anunoby sending a charge all the way from Vegas to Toronto.
And that's a part of that learning process here in Vegas for a lot of these players as the games start to stack up. You know, can you come back day 2, day 3? You know, are you getting rest? Are you preparing yourself to perform day in and day out so that those shots are going in? And as you can see, the game's going on. You know, maybe guys were a little bit fatigued coming off of back-to-back type situations, and they were able to push through that in the first half. Now they're starting to feel more confident. The body's starting to respond. And we've seen more shots going in here in this half.
Keita Bates-Diop getting closer to a double-double, 16 and 8 for him. And Thompson fouls Cousins on his way to the cup. Here's another look at the OG Jam.
Personal 15. Isaiah Cousins to the line. Shooting.
That's a great name, actually. OG
Great name.
Anunoby.
It's lyrical almost.
Yeah.
And ironic that a young fella would have the first name OG.
That is true. That is true. Saw the numbers there, man. The Raptors shooting the cover off the basketball here in this second half, and you know, still down by 2 though. You know, Minnesota, although percentage-wise they haven't shot the basketball as well, you know, relying on that Tibbs DNA, which is defense, you know, being the thing that's going to always keep you in games and give you a chance to win. So Timberwolves still in good position, even though they haven't shot the basketball well.
And I love, you know, the cutaways to Thibodeau watching the Summer League, because you can tell he's grinding. He's looking at time and score. How many timeouts do we have? What's the foul situation? Just the wheels are always turning in that brilliant basketball mind of Coach Tom Thibodeau. And Stark with the floater, and it goes. Stark has been nice. We watched him on Friday night against Denver making plays. He's continued that here today.
Yes, he has. He's played well. He's confident. You know, as another guy in great shape physically, which allows him to sustain his effort and energy. He's picking up full court. He's attacking, getting downhill. And it's great minutes here. And again, maybe his home isn't Minnesota, you know, because they have Jeff T, they have Derrick Rose, they have guys maybe at those positions, and they don't need him right now. But he's leaving an impression on the coach and the president of the team for Minnesota, but also 29 other teams that are watching him perform well so far.
OG with a critical three-point attempt. It wouldn't go, and it'll stay right here. Last touch by Minnesota. 14 on the shot clock for the Raps as they trail by 7. Keita Bates-Diop is up to 19 after hitting that 3 to go with 8 boards. Again, just shocking that he fell to 48 in the draft. I'm going to be saying that for the next 10 or 15 years. I literally could not believe that on draft night. But he's in a good spot. and should get playing time right off the bat as a rookie. Shot clock down to 5. OG on the move. Crossover. He's stuck, and shot blocked by Keita Bates-Diop.
Good defense in that situation. A lot of guys would have maybe gotten off the floor, off the pump fake, but the second guy off the floor, Bates-Diop with the good block.
And he hits another one.
Doing it on both ends.
That was a Derek Fisher dagger by Keita Bates-Diop.
Knocking down the corner 3, man. Good for a young fella doing it on both sides.
And OG comes back with a nice drive and the lefty finish. It's an 8-point game. Toronto's got to get a stop here, Fish. Here's Emil Jefferson off glass, and it went. Nice setup by Stark.
Yes, again, being aggressive as a guard. Getting down into below the baseline, seeking out those opportunities to finish or drop passes off to your bigs. And Emil Jefferson, you know, another guy, another double-double, just being in the right places. But this young man, Big Ten Player of the Year, knocking down corner 3s in Las Vegas.
We got you all day long on NBA TV as the Summer League action continues on the ESPN app and as well as NBA TV. Next, we've got the Hornets and Heat right here at Cox Pavilion, followed by the Mavs and Bucks, Jazz and Knicks, Kings and Clippers. It's all streaming on the ESPN app.
We are under 2 minutes.
And a 3-ball by Toronto has made it a 7-point game. Saw Juwan Howard looking on. And that was Giddy Potts with a clutch offering for Toronto. And to the best of our knowledge, that is his first name. Mom and Dad very happy about his arrival. They were Giddy, and thus they named him Giddy.
There it is. Mama called him Giddy.
We call him Giddy. At least his college bio said Giddy.
Right.
You know, without quotations. So there's somebody out there on Twitter who can correct us with the knowledge, that'd be cool. Here's Cousins. Missed the left-handed floater, and the rebound pulled out of there by Toronto. Strong rebound by McKinney. Under 2 minutes to go. Here's Potts again, little heat check. And Bates-Diop with the board. 1 rebound away from a double-double, and he is fouled by McKinney. McKinney wanted a jump ball. The refs did not agree. You know, Fish, it's pretty funny. Minnesota is so – their starting lineup does most of the heavy lifting, right? All 5 starters today in double figures. For Toronto, obviously their starters do heavy lifting as well, but their bench is one of the best in the league. Well, Toronto here in the Summer League has 4 players in double figures off their bench. So it's funny how these Summer League teams are kind of mirroring how the NBA teams play.
And a lot of that is mixed in.
Pat Riley. You want to talk about OG.
Man.
You got OG Anunoby, but that is the OG.
Rick, there's also a term called triple OG. And that's what Pat Riley is.
I like it.
Triple OG. God of the game, man. Brilliant basketball mind. Just a great person of high character, high integrity. Demanded a lot from his players, but also showed a love and compassion that made his players feel close to him enough to trust him with everything that he wanted to give them. And just a great person, man. Got to know Pat and his wonderful wife, Chris, in L.A. And just 2 great people, man. And good to see Pat still the love and the passion for the game. After all these years, he could be on the beach somewhere straight chilling, but still here in the summer trying to help the Miami Heat win games.
No rebounds, no rings. Right? Also, there's winning and there's misery.
Yes.
A couple of the great Pat Riley quotes as Emil Jefferson with a dagger dunk, and that's pretty much going to do it as Minnesota takes an 11-point lead. I've gotten friendly with Pat over the years. I'm blessed and privileged to be able to say that. I'm a huge fan of the man, of the legacy. I believe it's 9 rings. When you add a player, assistant coach, head coach, and executive, I think it's 9 rings for that great man, Pat Riley. Hall of Famer.
The disease of me. One of the things that he mentioned many, many years ago as to one of the main reasons why teams are not able to sustain success is at some point, you know, there are not going to be enough players willing to give up themselves for the betterment of the team. Greg Popovich believes in that a lot.
Got to get over yourself. That's what Pop says.
His defensive principles are built around the fact that players will not continue to make the right play and the right pass every time that they're required to. So we're going to keep making them make those decisions. Eventually our defense is going to force them into making mistakes because of that. So basketball is such a team game, and Pat Riley coined the phrase of reminding guys to give yourself up to this game, and it'll give you something back every time.
So how about the do for Pat Riley? Still got the slick back do. You know, got that full head of hair and still just styling here in Las Vegas. Giddy Potts went for the jam, and he was met at the rim by Josh Okogie. Wow, what an athletic defensive play by Okogie. And Giddy Potts wanted to jam the jam here in Vegas.
Raptors still scrapping, getting after it, forced a turnover, and then Potts thought he might be able to get that in there quickly, but Okogie closed the gap and looked like a pretty decent block from here. But our job is easier, watching it in replay in slow motion compared to the referees trying to do it in live action.
I'm assuming there was body contact below that drew that foul, because it looked like up top that it was hand on ball. And a 6-point game here with 43.4 to go. We'll step aside briefly and be back for the conclusion. Wolves and Raptors. Flamingos, no, they're not real, but they're pretty. And Minnesota leads by 6 here. 43.4 left, and these guys, the draft picks for Minnesota, are doing it. Okogie with 16, and Keita Bates-Diop with 22 and 9. Okogie 20th overall, Keita Bates-Diop 48th overall, and that's a really good draft for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I have a feeling we're going to be talking about those two guys for the Wolves for many, many years to come.
Yes, no, I agree. Really good pickups for a team that is looking to bolster its bench with activity on the defensive end. Guys that aren't afraid to mix it up and go get in the game. And even if you take the points off of what they've done and you just watch the game, they're both playing the game with purpose, driving the ball with aggression, doing good things on the defensive end, and just making winning basketball plays. And that's what they'll need to do when the season starts.
Boy, Toronto's saying that should be an over and back violation, and maybe it should have. Jefferson was on the other side of the timeline and then came on the left side of the timeline and received the ball. But Nick Nurse is not up and screaming. He does look pretty exercised, though. Nick Nurse, the Raptors Summer League coach, and I guess varsity head coach as well.
Yeah, I mean, technically.
Hold on, we have a Giddy Potts update. Gloria David on Twitter has said Giddy Potts' name is Nathaniel. Was a nickname since birth. Doctor said mom was Giddy, and his aunt coined him the nickname. So, social media.
So, auntie called him Giddy.
Yeah.
We're going to call him Giddy.
Human Google right there.
Nathaniel.
You gotta love it. I'm not sure how trusted that source is, but we're running with it. 4 years at Middle Tennessee State for Giddy Potts. I love it.
Well, either way, he's come in and played 8 minutes, but he's playing hard. He's scrapping. He's fighting out there. And, another
5 points, 2 assists.
Yeah, another 4-year player, that we see here in the summer league. And so as a senior, a guy that's, he's seen a lot of basketball in 4 years. And so, he's not afraid to come right into the game and mix it up. Nobody's physically overpowering or imposing to him, like you said, the way he's built. So, good for Giddy to get out here and get some action.
Well, he's worldwide now. I mean, he's big in the Philippines. He's big in Australia. He's big in Russia. NBA TV is worldwide, baby, and OG Anunoby with the miss, and the rebound comes to Keita Bates-Diop. There's the double-double, 22 and 10.
Really good, disciplined defensive possession for Bates-Diop. Accepting the drive by Anunoby, but keeping the hands up high off the body, not reaching in, getting the arms caught up for referee to call a foul. And then here again on the offensive end with another dagger, I guess, like his third or fourth one. Good game for Bates-Diop.
And here's Lloyd, one more. It is off, and the rebound to Minnesota. tack on another rebound to Bates Diop. 24 and 11 in the game. And a win for the Timberwolves, 103-92, as they shower him with towels there on the bench. But what an exciting afternoon for Keita Bates Diop, and the Minnesota Timberwolves move to 1-1 here at the MGM Resorts NBA Summer League. The Toronto Raptors, with their head coach Nick Nurse, fall to 0-2, and they have lost both of these games by double digits. The Wolves lost by 1 point on Friday, and here they are in the winner's circle thanks to their rookies, Josh Okogie and Keita Bates Diop. They were both really good today.
Really, really good. Played basketball with intensity, with purpose. Competing every day is hard to do, but these guys are coming out, mixing the game up. Bates Diop shot the ball well, drove it, got to the front of the rim, did some really good things on the defensive end. And this is something that, with his size, if he can put that ball down and, be able to stop and not draw charges, shoot floaters, that's impressive for a big fella. Good all-around game.
John Lucas II going to come over here and say hi to Derek Fisher while I give you some stats. Keita Bates Diop, 7 of 15 from the field, 3 of 6 from downtown. There were 6 Timberwolves in double figures in this game, and you saw Josh Okogie feeling the vibes here in Vegas. He was 5 of 15, but effective with 16 points and several hustle plays throughout. It looks like he may be studying something, maybe signing an autograph or two, and giving back to the kids and the fans here at Cox Pavilion. And let's send it over right now to Roe Parrish. He's with a very special guest and a hero.
That's right, Keita Bates Diop's joining me right now. So, you took the L, 1 point loss against Denver. How does it feel to bounce back and get the victory today?
It feels good to finally get a win in Summer League. We lost the first tough game, but it was good to get a win.
So, let me ask you this. Coming into the NBA draft, a lot of scouts said that your outside shot was suspect. You go 3 for 6 from downtown today, kind of knocked down that dagger thin. Derek Fisher gave you a shout out, NBA champion 5 times. How does that feel, and what have you been doing to improve that outside shot?
It feels great. I was a little inconsistent in college, so the offseason I've been working on my consistency, getting used to the NBA three-point line.
So you're the elder statesman of the team. You look very comfortable out here on the court. Is that true?
Yeah, definitely. I think my years in college helped me mature, a little bit more than the younger guys, and I'm trying to help the younger guys along.
Now, what about you and Josh Okogie? That's your fellow rookie mate. You two guys seem to have good chemistry on the floor, but what about off the floor?
We have good chemistry off the floor, too. That's why we have good chemistry on the court, because we hang out, we talk a lot of time. We got there early, so we were working out together. We were going through it. It was a little tough, so we got through it together.
So there's right there. You get the victory, get the double-double. Congratulations.
Thank you.
There it is, the man of the hour, putting up those numbers on the board.
Ro, thank you very much, and KBD, we appreciate you as well. Sometimes you got to turn the hyphenated name into an acronym, but Keita Bates Diop was fantastic here today. Had a couple of blocks on that stat line, a couple of assists, really did it all. 7 of 8 from the line, just really terrific. And Fish, talk about how important it is for young guys like this to, as he said, hang out and build that camaraderie off the court that leads to chemistry on the court.
Yeah, it's important, and more guys are embracing, not necessarily being best friends, but spending time together as co-workers, trying to figure out how to help push each other, motivate each other to be the best that they can be. 2 young rookies coming in, there's some veterans on the team that they're going to have to try and break through. And there are going to be a lot of times where they feel all alone, as young rookies when the NBA gets hard. But great to see the way that they've started. Both guys, good start to Vegas Summer League.
Let's give a couple of other shout-outs for the Wolves. Emil Jefferson, 2 double-doubles in 2 games. He had 15 and 13. And also Jonathan Stark. He's been terrific in both of these games. 16 points, 5 assists. He was 7 of 10 from the field. So it's a wrap. The Timberwolves have defeated the Raptors. The final score 103-92. So we've got the Charlotte Hornets and the Miami Heat coming up next. You will see first-round pick out of Michigan State, Miles Bridges, and some stars here in Las Vegas as our coverage rolls on NBA TV.